The dead, they're not supposed to talk. In 23 years as a funeral director, I've prepared over 4,000 bodies. I know death. I know silence. I know the weight of final words that will never be spoken again. But 3 weeks ago, everything I thought I knew about death became a lie. Her name was Sarah Chen, 28 years old. Car accident. Closed casket service, they said. The family was devastated. But when I was alone with her body that night, preparing her for the viewing, she spoke, not a whisper, not a gasp, full sentences, clear as day. And she was telling me things about her death that no one else knew, things that made me realize her accident wasn't an accident at all. But here's the thing that's been keeping me awake every night since. When I told the police what she said, when I told her family, they all looked at me like I was losing my mind. Because according to them, Sarah Chen had been mute since birth. She had never spoken a word in her entire life. So why could I hear her voice so clearly? And why was she begging me to find her killer? Chen Funeral Home called me on a Tuesday morning. I remember because Tuesdays are usually quiet. Most people don't die on Tuesdays. Don't ask me why. It's just something you notice in this business. The voice belonged to Margaret Chen, Sarah's mother. She was calling from the hospital. Her daughter had been in a car accident the night before. Single vehicle, wet roads. The car hit a tree going 60 miles per hour. She didn't suffer, Margaret told me through her tears. The doctor said it was instant. She never felt any pain. I've heard those words 1,000 times. Families always need to believe their loved ones didn't suffer. Sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not. But I always tell them what they need to hear. The body arrived that afternoon. I remember wheeling the gurney into the preparation room and feeling different. Usually there's a certain stillness when I'm alone with the deceased, a sacred quiet. But with Sarah, the air felt electric, like right before a thunderstorm. I pulled back the sheet, and my first thought was how young she looked. Even in death, she had this peaceful expression, like she was sleeping. Her dark hair was still perfect despite the accident. No visible injuries to her face or neck. But then I noticed something odd. Her lips were slightly parted. In my experience, the mouth usually settles closed after death. It takes deliberate effort to keep it open. I made a mental note to check the coroner's report later. I started the standard preparation, washing, positioning, checking for any injuries that might affect the viewing. The family had requested a closed casket, but I still needed to ensure she looked peaceful for their private goodbye. That's when I found the bruising. Finger marks on her throat, faint but unmistakable. Someone had grabbed her by the neck, hard. I've seen strangulation marks before. This was different. These were from someone trying to restrain her, not kill her. I was photographing the bruises when I heard it. A voice, clear as day. "You see them too, don't you?" I dropped my camera, spun around. The room was empty, just me and Sarah's body. But the voice had come from the table. I approached slowly. Sarah's eyes were closed. Her chest wasn't moving. There was no pulse. She was dead. Completely, clinically dead, but then she spoke again. "He made me crash the car. He was in the back seat. I couldn't stop him." I stood there for 5 minutes, staring at Sarah's body, waiting, listening, but there was nothing. Just the hum of the air conditioning and the distant sound of traffic outside. I convinced myself it was stress. Maybe grief from another case bleeding into this one. Maybe I needed a vacation. But as I continued working, documenting every detail of her injuries, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me. The bruising on her throat was just the beginning. Under the fluorescent lights, I could see faint marks on her wrists, rope burns, and there were scratches on her palms, defensive wounds. Sarah Chen hadn't died in a simple car accident. She'd been fighting for her life. I pulled out the police report. Single vehicle accident. Rain-slicked roads. Speed estimated at 65 mph. No other vehicles involved, case closed. But the evidence on her body told a different story. That's when she spoke again. "His name is Marcus. He's been watching me for months. He was hiding in my car when I left work." I nearly fell backward. This time I could swear I saw her lips move just slightly, but her eyes remained closed, and when I checked for a pulse, there was nothing. "Why can you hear me?" she asked. "No one else ever could." I found my voice. "And because you're dead," I whispered, "and I work with the dead." She was quiet for a long moment, then, "I've been dead for 18 hours, but I can't leave. Not until someone knows the truth." I asked her what happened, and for the next hour, as I continued my work, Sarah Chen told me about her final night, about the man who had been stalking her, about how he'd hidden in her back seat and forced her to drive to a remote location, about how she'd fought him off and tried to escape. "I almost made it," she said. "I was driving back to town when he grabbed the wheel. He said if he couldn't have me, no one could. He steered us into that tree." I asked where Marcus was now, where I could find him. "He survived," she said. "He always survives. He's done this before, to other girls. But their voices, they're not as strong as mine. You need to stop him." I was about to ask more questions when the door opened. Margaret Chen walked in with Sarah's father. They wanted to see their daughter one last time before the viewing. I quickly covered Sarah's body and turned to greet them, but as they approached the table, I heard Sarah's voice again. "Tell them I love them. Tell them I'm sorry I never got to speak to them when I was alive." I looked at Margaret Chen. "Sarah wants you to know she loves you." Margaret's face went white. How did you know she wanted to say that?" "She told me," I said simply. That's when Margaret broke down. She couldn't speak, she sobbed. She was born without vocal cords. She never said a word her entire life. She used sign language, she used writing, but she never spoke. I stared at Margaret Chen, 28 years old, born mute, never spoke a word, but I could hear her voice as clearly as I could hear my own. "That's impossible," I said. "She's been talking to me for the past hour." Margaret and her husband exchanged glances, the kind of look that says this man is having a breakdown. But Sarah's voice came again, stronger this time. "In death, I have the voice I never had in life, but only you can hear it. Only you can help me." I excused myself and called the police. Detective Rivera had handled the initial accident report. "Detective, I need you to reopen the Sarah Chen case. It wasn't an accident." There was silence on the other end. Then, "Mr. Morrison, I know you're upset, but the evidence is clear. Single vehicle accident, no signs of foul play. There are bruises on her throat, rope burns on her wrists. Someone was in that car with her. We examined the body at the scene. There were no suspicious injuries. Are you sure you're not seeing things that aren't there?" I hung up and returned to the preparation room. Sarah's parents had left. I was alone with her again. "They can't see the bruises," she said. "They're not meant to. Only you can see them. Only you can hear me. There's something different about you." I took out my camera and photographed the bruises again, but when I looked at the photos, they showed nothing. Clean, unmarked skin, no bruises, no rope burns, no defensive wounds. "How is that possible?" I asked. "Because Marcus isn't just anyone," she said. "He's like you. He can see things others can't, do things others can't. He's been using his gift to hurt people for years." She told me about the others. Jessica Martinez, found dead in her apartment, ruled a suicide. Amanda Foster, drowned in her bathtub, accident. Kelly Patterson, carbon monoxide poisoning, faulty heater. "He makes it look normal," Sarah said. "He makes everyone see what he wants them to see, but you're stronger than he is. You can stop him." I asked her how she knew all this, how she knew about me. "Because I'm not the first girl he's killed who tried to reach out to you. The others, they're here too. They've been waiting for someone strong enough to hear them." That's when I saw them. Translucent figures standing in the corners of the room, young women, all different ages, all with the same desperate look in their eyes. "We've been trying to reach you for months," Jessica Martinez said. "But Sarah's voice is the strongest. She's the key to stopping him." They told me about Marcus Thompson, 34 years old, worked as a security guard at various office buildings. He'd been targeting women who worked late shifts, women who would be alone. "He's hunting again," Sarah said. "Tonight, a girl named Emma works at the law firm on 5th Street. She stays late every Tuesday. He's been watching her. I looked at my watch. 9:47 p.m., Tuesday night. "You have to get there," Sarah said. "You have to stop him before he kills again." I left the funeral home and drove to 5th Street. The law firm was on the 8th floor of a downtown office building. Most of the lights were out, but I could see one window still glowing. I took the elevator up. The hallway was empty, but I could hear typing coming from behind frosted glass doors. Emma was still there, still working. I was about to knock when I heard footsteps behind me. Slow, deliberate. I turned around. A man was walking toward me. Tall, thin, wearing a security guard uniform. He had dark hair and cold, calculating eyes. But there was something else, something that made my skin crawl. "You can see me," he said. "Interesting. Most people can't when I don't want them to." Marcus Thompson. I knew it was him without being told, and I knew he could see that I knew. "You're here about Sarah," he said. "I wondered when someone would figure it out. She was resilient. Most of them accept their fate, but she kept fighting even after death." I backed toward the law firm's door. "The police are on their way," I lied. He laughed. "No, they're not. They can't see what you can see. They can't hear what you can hear. To them, I'm just a security guard doing his late-night rounds." He pulled out a set of keys. "I have access to every building in this district, every office, every woman who works late and thinks she's safe." That's when I heard Sarah's voice again, not just in my head. She was standing right next to me. "Emma's in danger," she said, "but you can save her. You have to believe in what you can do." The other women appeared too. Jessica, Amanda, Kelly, all of them surrounding Marcus, but he couldn't see them, only I could. "Tell Emma to run," Sarah said. "Tell her to get out of the building now." I banged on the law firm's door. "Emma, you need to leave. There's a dangerous man in the building." I heard a chair scrape across the floor. Then Emma's voice. "Who's there? I'm calling security." "I am security," Marcus said calmly. "Don't worry about him, Emma. He's just a confused old man. I'll handle this." But Emma had heard the panic in my voice. She was smart enough to know something was wrong. I heard her on the phone with 911. Marcus's expression changed. For the first time, he looked uncertain. "She's calling the police. This wasn't part of the plan." "Your plan is over," I said. "Sarah told me everything about Jessica, Amanda, Kelly, about all the women you've killed." The sirens were getting closer. Marcus looked toward the elevator, then back at me. "You don't understand what you're dealing with," he said. "What we are, what we can do." "I understand enough," I said. "I understand that you're a killer, and I understand that I can stop you." That's when he lunged at me, but Sarah was faster. I felt her presence rush past me, and Marcus suddenly stopped mid-attack. He looked confused, disoriented. "She's fighting me," he said. "How is she so strong?" "Because she's not alone," I said. "They're all here, all the women you killed, and they're done being silent." The elevator dinged. Police officers flooded the hallway. Marcus tried to run, but he stumbled, like invisible hands were holding him back. They arrested him on the spot, found evidence in his apartment linking him to all 4 murders. The detective called it the easiest case he'd ever solved. That was 3 weeks ago. Marcus Thompson was charged with 4 counts of murder. The media called him the Invisible Killer, a man who somehow managed to commit perfect crimes until one lucky break brought him down. They don't know about the voices. They don't know about Sarah Chen's final words. They don't know that sometimes the dead refuse to stay silent. I finished preparing Sarah's body that night. Her funeral was beautiful. Hundreds of people came to pay their respects. Her mother gave a speech in sign language about how Sarah had always found ways to communicate, even without words. But I knew the truth. In death, Sarah had found her voice, and she'd used it to save another woman's life. I still hear them sometimes, the voices of the dead. Not all of them, just the ones who have something important to say, something that can't wait for the afterlife. Last week, an elderly man told me his grandson was in an abusive relationship. Yesterday, a young mother warned me about a dangerous intersection where 3 more people would die if the city didn't fix the traffic light. I've learned to listen, to trust what I hear, because sometimes the dead are the only ones who can speak the truth. So tell me, Have you ever heard voices that others can't hear? Have you ever felt like someone was trying to tell you something important, but you couldn't quite make out the words? Maybe you're more like me than you think. Maybe the dead have been trying to reach you too. If you're still watching if you made it this far, comment the word voices below. Share your story. Because sometimes the only way to help the dead find peace is to let them know they've been heard. And remember, just because someone can't speak in life doesn't mean they don't have something important to say in death.